Hi everybody, it's me, Jill. Welcome to Jill Informed. This is a recap of The Real Housewives of New Jersey, Season 9, Episode 17, The Reunion Part 2. Oh my God, you guys, I am so excited. It is just about to start. I'm going to be watching right along with you, and what do you think's going to happen? I think this is the episode when the guys come out and Danielle... I don't know. I could be wrong. Some of you are telling me that there are going to be 3 parts to the reunion. So if that's the case, it might not be tonight, but I don't know. I'm just excited. I think part 1 was great. I loved the battle between Jackie and Teresa. So I can't wait to see what tonight brings. All right, let's get started. Oh my God, I almost forgot where we left off. Teresa trying to grab the cards out of Andy's hand to throw them at Jackie. And Andy had a good grip on those cards, man. He yanked them back from her. And then Jackie goes, "You're going to throw something at me, Teresa? Really? Aren't you on parole?" Everyone's eyes get big. Teresa. You know how Teresa's always petting her hair? White trash, bitch. Oh, God. The best part was the way Andy held on to those cards. Well, Jackie and Jennifer come to some sort of agreement about her article. Jackie said that she really didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. What she said was, we got invited to Jennifer's house, and Jennifer had kind of touted it as, come see the biggest, best, most spectacular house in all of Paramus. And so then they got there, and she said that in retrospect, I probably should have given her a heads up before printing the article. And then Jennifer kind of agreed that she did critique my parenting. She didn't really say anything bad about my children, but she was talking about my children, and I think if she would have just told me ahead of time, I wouldn't have liked it, but at least I would have been prepared. Everybody was nodding and going, yeah, that seems fair. Oh no. The next question was for Teresa. Why is it okay for Dolores to speak for you, but it's not okay for Jackie to speak for Melissa? And Dolores answered by saying, I wasn't speaking for her, but it's just that you stick with like one word, like control. You kept saying control, control. Like, how do you control your husband? You can't control your husband. And that's not really what she meant. And Teresa goes, yeah, I meant persuade. Like, you could persuade your husband. And Andy Cohen goes, persuade. Yeah, persuade. That's what I meant. And he goes, persuade. Persuade. Yeah, persuade. Oh. Poor Teresa. All right, we just had a whole big segment about all their moms. And I don't know, Jackie's mom who had the makeover, she's not keeping it up. Melissa's mom is the fun mom. Marge Sr. is, I guess, single and ready to mingle. No. No's doing good. He has a hematoma in his stomach, but he's doing better. He was in the hospital for a while, but he's home and doing better. And Dolores's mom is still eating cookies for breakfast because she's done it her whole life. You can't really tell her what to do. Oh, and Jennifer's mom, Jennifer reveals that she and her mom did not get along well during her adolescence until she married somebody that her mom approved of. They did not get along well, and her mother used to get on her about gaining weight and called her fat, and yeah, it was not great. She does call her best friend now, but is she just her best friend because she married someone she approved of? I don't know. That was a little depressing. Oh, we get our little Jennifer montage, and it starts with a question, somebody saying, I love hearing about your Turkish culture, but how do they feel about you being on TV and how you're like being portrayed on TV? And she said, well, in my culture, we don't like to talk about where we got things or how much we pay for things. And oh my God, Everybody was like, what? That's all you do? And she said, but I wear my heart on my sleeve. I don't think that's what that means. I mean, maybe you wear your purse on your sleeve. I don't know. So yeah, she has always let it all out. So then we get to see the house and go through that whole thing again. We find out that she's only pooped in one of the 16 bathrooms. Thanks for that question, Andy. And then he asks Margaret, why Margaret? So that there can be some shade thrown. He asks Margaret what she thought of Jennifer's style. And Margaret said, I mean, it's very Liberace, but, it's very Jennifer. And Jennifer said, yeah, well, at least I don't live among garment racks, but, oh, yeah, ouch. Then she goes, yeah, I mean, my house is under construction, so, what she paid for her house, I paid for mine. I live in Englewood, right by the city, and I don't live in Taj Mahal next to the highway. Oh, so shady. She does end up saying, listen, it was a joke. Your house is beautiful. It's totally you, and it's lovely. And Jennifer's like, thank you. Okay, we're still with Jennifer, thank God. Love me some Jen. And the questions are about, like, premarital sex and that you couldn't be with Bill before you got married. And what would that have been like? Like, what if he was small? What if, And she said, there's certain things you can do to, like, figure out the size without having sex. So they get into that a little bit. Then she says that she thinks that being on the show has really helped their marriage. And Andy said, really? How? And she said, I mean, I don't know, we'll be out somewhere and Bill's like got his hands all over me and it's kind of like, this is my prize. Melissa's kind of like wondering what she's saying exactly. And she said, do you feel more valued by him since being on the show? And she said, yes. And Melissa goes, that doesn't bother you? That like it took you had to be on a TV show for him to value you? Like that would bother me. And she said, no, right now I'm just enjoying it. Okay. Melissa's like, well, that wouldn't fly with me. I get what she's saying, but I don't think he appreciates her more because she was on a TV show. Actually, Teresa said, well, you're getting dressed up more and stuff. That might actually be more accurate. If now that she's on a TV show and, every time she leaves the house, she's dressed nicer and makeup and hair and everything, that could put a little pep in your step, maybe, Dolores said, anything different, any change to what's going on in your lives kind of can like perk up a marriage. So I think it's more that. I don't think it's that he respects her more because she's on a TV show, but what do I know? Okay, we talk about Teresa's competition a little bit. Andy says that I couldn't believe how you stuck to your diet. I think I told you guys I felt the same way. Like, wow, she was committed. And it was for so long. It was so many weeks of it. It started from the very beginning of the season. So, I mean, months went by and she was like bringing her little chicken and broccoli everywhere. So yeah, that was good. And she just said that when she puts her mind to like something, it's easy for her to just focus on that. I'm not going to go there. So we talked about that a little, and then he mentioned that somebody saw her in Miami with another guy, and she was like, it was New Year's Eve, there was a bunch of people there, and I was taking pictures with a lot of fans, and Andy's like, and they were touching you? Yeah, they were touching me. I mean, oh my God, it was New Year's Eve. Okay, that doesn't mean strangers touch you on New Year's Eve. Then the next thing was that she was seen without her wedding ring. And she said, yeah, that's what they reported. So what? I mean, Joe never wore his wedding ring. I don't know, there was a lot of like side-eye looks from all the other ladies, but I don't know where that's going yet. Okay, now it's Melissa's turn, and a viewer had a comment about Joe being disrespectful to her in front of the kids, and Melissa's like, yeah, sometimes he opens his mouth too much, and that wasn't right, and Antonia can do whatever she wants when she grows up. And Andy asked if she was working at Envy yet, and she said no, she's got homework and she's in cheer and gymnastics and stuff. I don't know if he just asked Teresa or if he asked all of them if they shop there. And Teresa said, yeah, I just went there the other day. I spent $700 on stuff for the girls. And then I came back to return some things and I spent $500 more. Okay. Did it strike you guys as weird that she's telling us how much she spent at her sister-in-law's store? Something didn't sit right with me about that. Then Andy asked, do you all get a discount there? And all of them said, yes, they do. And then Margaret said, yeah, very generous. And Teresa goes, oh, more than me? And they're all kind of laughing, although Melissa didn't think that was so funny. And then Teresa said she was just kidding, but I don't know if she was just kidding. Well, we get a little Melissa and Teresa action here that came out of nowhere. We're talking about Melissa doing the DNA thing to find her long-lost sister that she may or may not have. And Andy was asking, have you done it? And she said yes, but nothing's turned up yet. And she said that a lot of people were DMing her that they've been going through it too, and there's other things she can do also. And Andy's like, yeah, I mean, there are other things you can do. And I'm like, yes, pay for a private detective, please. I want that next season. But anyway, she's like, yeah, I know. And then I think Andy asked Teresa, what do you think about all this, about, her having another sister? And Teresa's like, oh. And he goes, well, what do you mean? And she goes, well, she has a sister. Okay, I know she meant her, but she also actually has 2 other sisters who are actually her sisters. But anyway, she goes, I'm right here. Melissa's like, wait a second, are you offended that I'm looking for my sister? And she's like, no, I'm not saying that. And she goes, well, what are you saying? And Teresa goes, I'm just saying, I'm right here. You should be treating me like a sister. You're over there on that couch. You should be sitting over here. Well, she pulls that again. And again, Melissa said, well, tell Andy, because they're the one that told me where to sit. And she goes, that's because you always side with people who are against me. And Jackie goes, I'm not against you. Then we get into that whole thing that Melissa didn't have her back when Jackie said something about Joe being away. And Melissa said, yeah, and you didn't have my back when Dolores went after me either. I've known Dolores for 20 years. Okay, again, that doesn't matter. And Melissa said, so what? That doesn't matter. Dolores is trying to say, I was just trying to explain something to you. No, you weren't. You called her a little princess. You were not trying to explain anything to her. And besides, on that logic, Jackie was just trying to explain something to Teresa too. So Melissa's getting mad and she's like, okay, so you all just saw what happened, right? I'm just sitting here and she comes after me out of nowhere. I'm talking about my sister and my dad, and she's coming after me. And Teresa's like, I'm not coming after you. Well, yeah, you kind of were. At the very least, you make it about you all the time, Teresa. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, Andy's like, all right, let's move on from that. So, Melissa, you just turned 40 this year, or as you call it, the F word. Teresa goes, no F word, remember? Like the F word. Everyone's like, what? Remember, your butt buddy over here doesn't like the F word. Oh my God. Your butt buddy? You are a class act, Teresa. And I have to tell you something. I honestly don't think that Teresa understands that 40 is the F word. Does not understand the joke of calling 40 the F word. I don't think she realizes that 40 starts with an F. She might not even know that you can spell out a number. Oh, okay. Joe Gorga comes out now, and we go through the Cats in the Cradle gate, and we get to revisit some great scenes with Nono. You not come to visit me. Melissa, we were just here. When? 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago. Oh, some of my favorite memories. Anyway, Andy asks him if when he looks back, if he thinks that it was really Teresa who was getting in Joe Giudice's ear to say bad things about you to your dad? Or do you think it was Joe? And, you know, if you guys remember in one of Joe Gorga's confessionals very early on in the season, he said, I used to blame Joe for the distance between me and my dad, but now I'm wondering if it was my sister behind it all along. So I think that's what Andy's trying to get him to say. But he doesn't. He said, no, I think it was Joe Giudice all the way. He used to be in my father's ear, and, you know, they were closer. They spent more time together. And Teresa's like, yeah, they loved each other. But then Joe Gorga says, well, he had more time to spend. I was always working. I don't mean this in any bad way, but look at him and look at me. I mean, I was always working my ass off, and he had time to be around my dad. Oh, yeah. And then, you know, he's looking at Andy and he goes, do you know what I'm saying? And Andy's like, yeah, I think I know what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? And he's like very pointedly looking at Andy, and then Andy's like frantically trying to guess kind of, and he's like, I think you're being very clear, like that you were like a legitimate businessman and Joe Giudice was not really working. So, I mean, if I were Teresa, why isn't Teresa screaming at him? If Melissa said that exact same thing, Teresa would have jumped down her throat already. Okay, this part is interesting because there was a viewer question from Melissa asking, why didn't you just tell Joe to spend more time with his dad? This whole thing with you and Teresa would have gone away if you would have just done that. And she's like, everybody in this room, including all the production crew, none of them spend as much time with their parents as these two do. If 4 days goes by without Joe seeing him, he's mad. So then she said, and this was very interesting, I thought. Then she said, he also complains about Teresa to us. So that's how I know he's a complainer. Because he'll say to us, I don't know where she is. She's never home. She's at the gym again. And she said, and I didn't want to throw Teresa under the bus. So I never said that. But he does the same thing to us that he does to her. So that was pretty interesting. Okay. We get to the control thing. Andy asks Joe Gorga, could Melissa control you if she wanted? And he's like, no, not like that. Not about, you know, making me see my father or something. And Melissa's like, not with a deep-rooted family issue. And then Andy asks Teresa, could Joe control you? And she said, yeah. And he goes, could he? And she goes, I mean, like, if he talked nice to me and he was sweet about it, he could. They got into that discussion a little bit, but then she's going after Melissa again. You know what I meant when I said control. You knew that I didn't mean control. And Melissa's like, what? And she goes, you know what I'm saying. And Melissa goes, no, nobody knows what you're saying. There's a viewer question about whether Melissa believes that Teresa just tolerates her or not. Melissa said, honestly, I thought not, but I'm not so sure anymore. And we know that. She said it to the confession cam, basically. She does not like her. She's never going to like her. And by the way, has nothing to do with Melissa. She would feel the exact same way about any woman who was married to her brother. So, I mean, I think she's pretty lucky with Melissa, because if I were her sister-in-law, I would have nothing to do with her. So Andy asks Teresa, do you just tolerate her? And oh my God, there was the longest pause ever. And then Teresa said, I mean, listen, I don't think she likes me very much either. Then the question gets asked, would you be friends with her if you weren't family? And she's like, I mean, maybe, I don't know. And Melissa's like, well, it doesn't really seem like we would be friends, does it? No, it doesn't. Okay, well, what a fun ending to part 2. We are talking about Joe Giudice's deportation, and we get this horribly sad montage of when Teresa got sent away and when Joe got sent away, and the effect on the girls. Oh my God. I mean, it was incredibly sad. Everybody was in tears. And then Andy asked Teresa, if he does get deported, will she go with him? And she said, we're trying not to think about that. Which I remember her saying that before when they didn't know if they were going to go to prison or not. They were trying not to think about that. But anyway, so she's trying not to think about it. He is being deported, but they have an appeal. So she said their lawyers are working really hard. Andy wanted to know if they gave her an idea of how likely it would be. And she said, no, they're doing their best. And he said, so would you go with him if he was? And she said, well, I don't think picking up my whole family and moving them to another country would be good for them. And he said, so you wouldn't go with him? And she said, no. I think that was the first time she ever said that, right? I mean, it's not surprising, but like it is surprising to me that she admitted it. And I think everybody there was surprised. I think her brother was surprised, her sister-in-law. I think Dolores was surprised. Yeah, that was a little bit of a bombshell. That is where we end. And oh my God, you guys, I am going to have a busy week next week. I'm going to have 4 videos coming out because there is a part 3 to this reunion. And that's when all the guys come, and that's when Danielle comes. And I cannot miss that. But it's also the exact same day that New York City is starting. So, oh my gosh. Action-packed week ahead. You don't want to miss it. I will be here. I hope you're here too. So I will see you next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Time for the final installment, part 3 of the reunion of the Real Housewives of New Jersey. Don't forget to subscribe to Jill Informed if you haven't already. Click on that bell icon if you want a notification every time I have a new video come out. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. And don't forget to leave a comment. I love to hear from you guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.